ties into what my topic is today, because we are in the midst of exploring prosperity since I'm teaching that class, and this is beautiful because it says all the things not to do. And sometimes we learn from the opposite. Sometimes better. Don't you think? So as we continue to examine our beliefs that we have attached to prosperity, we need to recognize the thoughts and ideas that we have attached to money. I mean, look at this image of this young boy. What kind of thought and idea has he attached to this wonderful $20 bill? You remember the excitement of the first time you were trusted with that floppy dollar. Don't you?
Only yesterday.
It was only yesterday? Yeah, well, it's a continual process. So we're going to dive right in and get to look at some thoughts and ideas that we have about money. First, we're going to start with the false teachers and the love of money. This comes from 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 3 to 10. And it was a letter from Paul to Timothy, who was overseeing a bunch of churches, and he was observing a phenomenon that still happens today. So, it goes like this. If anyone teaches otherwise and does not agree to the sound instruction of our Lord Jesus Christ and to godly teaching, they are conceited and understand nothing. They have an unhealthy interest in the controversies and quarrels that result in envy, strife, malicious talk, evil suspicions, and constant friction between people of corrupt mind who have been robbed of the truth and who think that godliness or right action is a means to financial gain. But godliness with contentment is great gain, for we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and to many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. We would call that a get-rich-quick scheme in our current day language. Here it is, the key. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So, as you know, I love Rocco Errico and George Lanza, and I want to share with you their version, their explanation of what on earth does all of this gibberish mean. The 10th verse of the Eastern Aramaic, don't forget they translate directly from the Aramaic, not through the countless versions as many scriptures have come from, goes like this. Indeed, the insatiable greed for riches is the origin of all misfortune. For there are some men who inordinately lusted after it, and hereby have been led away from faith, and have brought themselves much misery. So even in the wonderful song that has that great beat, Lon shared about a man who was dreaming after lusting after riches, and then if he had all these things, and if his wife was adorned, and all these house and chickens and all of that above was happening, and he was content, because he needed all of that to become content, then he might have time to go sit in temple. Maybe. Because it would depend on how busy he was being the important man that everyone came to for information and guidance. So it's interesting how we think that the outer will feed the inner. Rocco Errico goes on to say that his expression of the love of money is the root of all evil must be kept in its context. Certainly, insatiable greed is not the only origin of all evil in the world. Paul is pointing out to people who were carried away. He's pointing out people who had become carried away by money. He also wants Timothy to know that the evil and misfortune these people experienced came from their extravagant greed. At that time, some were being drawn away from the faith in Jesus' gospel and the kingdom of God. So that was the essence of Paul's instruction. And a lot of times in our culture, it has been taught about, but not all the words of the sentence are there. Have you ever noticed that? When I first learned of this statement, it was money was the root of all evil. Who here has heard that? Yeah, every hand in this sanctuary is up. But it is the love of money, the lust for money, the greed that is the root of evil. Not money itself. Money is my friend. And we're going to explore why that is. So a love for money, above all things, shows that your outer personality is in charge of your life. True prosperity is founded on inner guidance, inner essence, a consciousness of the unfailing riches of spirit, specifically concerning our connection to the indwelling Christ. Unity principle number 2. We talk about that the divine spark is in us all the time. We have that ability to consciously pray and commune with God so that we have the ability to connect from our wisdom within. Listen, listen, listen to that still, small voice. Have you ever noticed that it all comes back to like the same stuff? A person may have material wealth and still feel poor because they lack the connection to the divine as their source. But those who are conscious of God as the omnipotent, omnipresent, why can't I remember the third? Oh, omniscient, thank you. I need more tea. As you remember that God is omnipresent, it feels beyond that sense of riches. It's beyond that sense of tangible goods. It's beyond all of the things in the song that the man needed to have. It is a sense of knowing that our needs are met, no matter what's going to happen this day, tomorrow, next week, next year. Our needs are going to be met. In Prosperity, by Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, he says, in the matter of money or riches, we have taken the idea that is of pure substance from the spiritual realm, and then we've forgotten the spiritual realm, and we've tried to work it out on our material world. Have you ever done that? We talked about divine substance last week, where it is the energy source that is moldable, like Play-Doh, through our thoughts and our words and the inspiration we get from spirit. So when we forget that our substance comes from the spiritual realm, and we forget about that, and try to take it onto our own and figure it out for ourselves. Who here has done that? Yeah, I knew I wasn't alone. Basically what happens is we are still working with the idea of prosperity, but now it's from the carnal sense mind, and we forget that it was rooted in wisdom and love. So that's basically mistake number 1, that we forget the spiritual essence of that substance. We are spiritual beings made in the image and likeness of God, formulated in wisdom and love. But we haven't stopped working on that idea. So this idea gets colored by thoughts of impatience and disappointment and lust and greed and the urge for more. More. And so what happens to the purity of that original manifestation, that original divine idea, that original source of substance? Somehow now it's muddy and murky and sort of got gravel in it. So Fillmore goes on to state that to have adequate supply at all times, an even flow that is never enough to become a burden, yet always enough to meet every demand, we must make union with spirit that knows how to handle the idea of substance. So it's through prayer and meditation that we return our awareness to the spiritual essence of substance. Humankind has the idea that material substance is limited, and so we engage in competition. We are taught competition at an early age to grab one another's money. This competition only demonstrates a belief in not enough. There's not enough for me, there's not enough for you, there's not enough for this church, there's not enough for the world, there's not enough for this country, there's not enough. That's all competition promotes, is a belief in not enough. Survey says, who here is going to consciously choose not enough? I didn't think so. I didn't think so. Just checking though, because you know how I love to ask those questions. Divine substance doesn't give you money in U.S. currency, although I have found a few dollar bills and some stuff, sometimes in the laundry, because he doesn't empty his pockets too often. So I have found U.S. currency. Although divine substance, the essence of divine substance, gives you an idea. It's just like what Kim said earlier about how we work together. God gives me an idea, and somehow it ends up in her inbox. Same with Rob. Something for them to do. But God gives you an idea. It is our job as human beings to connect and express those ideas of substance into a material form, to mold it, to shape it, to create. We did that collectively when we decided we wanted 25 more chairs. It took us only a few months to manifest that idea. So God provides mind substance. These are ideas that set the spiritual forces into motion so that things can come to us by application of a law. These are all universal laws. This universal law that governs the manifestation of supply, once we learn that law and apply it by mental determination and faith, it follows the logical sequence of events. Don't I make it sound simple? Yes. Here's mistake number 2. Human beings have had a habit of thinking that the laws of God are mysterious, sacred, and downright spooky. Haven't we? Mm-hmm. You know, some of our cousins in philosophy have removed our ability to understand. Some faiths make a woman wear a veil so that they because they're not allowed to have conscious connection with God. I would have a problem with that. But that's what they teach. We in Unity and New Thought know that each and every individual has a conscious connection to God at any time, with every breath. So we don't believe that God's laws are mysterious. It's fun to make them spooky, but it's not true. It's a myth we like to play with ourselves. A strict metaphysician would look at these temporal laws and say they are secondary to the one law of God. Same as in the song, where he wanted all of these outer things, and then maybe he would have time to go to temple and discuss spiritual law. So this law that is a part of us is written on our hearts. It's inside of us. It's a part of who we are, part of our being. And because of that, the law automatically responds. Our thinking, our words, our actions are all a magnet for good or not so good. But it's following the law, its principle. It's the same for him and for her and for her and for him and for me. Darn it. So when we get this realization, when we work with the fact that this is a law and a truth, we have the condition to create prosperity, to demonstrate the law. I automatically respond to the laws of God. God and I are one. Let's affirm that together. I automatically respond to the laws of God. God and I are one. You knew that about yourself, didn't you? Yeah. We're not affirming it to make it true. It's a fact about our existence, one that needs to be embraced and acted upon. So mistake number 3 is we have a habit of looking to the outer world for our good when everything we seek is in our inner realm. So why is money my friend? Because it's a symbol. Money is only a symbol of the idea of prosperity. We've also used beads. We've used shells. We've used chickens. It's a symbol of prosperity. You can make any symbol you want. Could be roses. So money is a symbol that represents what we value. It also represents the value we place on goods and services, on property, on land. And we have collectively agreed to the value of this symbol. In the same way that we have identified what we value here as a community when we created our mission statement, our vision statement, our core values, the things that we hold dear. So money as an idea in itself is good and draws to us more good. When we are functioning in divine order, that is absolutely a truth. Somewhere along the way, when we all heard money is the root of all evil, we got confused about this. But it is not money that is evil. It is the love of, the lust after, the greed that is the root of evil. It could be any symbol you want. But when it's attached to greed, there's problems. So the love of money is the root of all evil. Man should love the source of all money first. And that source is, pop quiz now, God. Oh, I knew you had it. God as divine substance is the source of money. It's the source of health. It's the source of well-being. It's the source of abundance. It all comes back to the same thing. Jesus wanted the money changers removed from the temple. Why? Because they represented dishonest thoughts of materialism and greed. That's what they represented. Greed. They were just the money handlers, the changers to keep someone else in greed. Our consciousness must be cleansed of these thoughts if our body temple is to become pure and follow the one law. It's just an idea we attach. You see how powerful your ideas are? Every step of the way we attach energy to a symbol. I like this one. I'm going to go for that. So, the inner law that is written on our hearts, you've heard this before, to love God to love your neighbor as yourself, and to love your work. All of those things are working in alignment and in combination with one another for you to serve of your highest good, to have your highest expression in this physical plane. Sounds simple, doesn't it? We humans have this way of complicating the matter. All we need to do is to meditate and pray daily and to affirm the presence of the one God. To remember the source of all is the one God. And we will receive our gifts. Basically, it's an inside job. Namaste.